Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video going to be talking about a new BTC miner. This is coming from ePIC Blockchain. This is the ePIC Blockminer. So this is pretty exciting news because number one, it's new. Number two, it's on those new Intel chips. And we do finally have like detailed specifications, right? So we know they've been around, they've been installed, but we do have good specifications, good pictures. So pretty exciting. And yeah, so if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned, all right? Uh, so this is a pretty crazy weekend, right? We just came over this Silicon Valley Bank stuff. Looks like everything's resolved, everything started pumping. Crazy stuff. So this actually did happen towards the end of last week, but it got lost in all of this Silicon Valley stuff, right? So it pretty much did get overlooked, but we're going to take a look at it, right? So pretty exciting stuff. So let's get to it. So again, this is from ePIC Blockchain, so epicblockchain.io if you're interested. This is the ePIC Blockminer, powered by UMC, which is their Universal Mining Control, which is their GUI, their interface. So this is actually done. It is shipping now. It is only shipping to farms though, right? So it's not up for like retail grabs just yet, maybe in the future. So again, pretty exciting stuff. Main reason being is not only is it new, right? New manufacturer, new Intel chips, but it's also outside of China. This is one big thing that they have like had a stranglehold on that market, right? So in case you're unfamiliar, we are engineers based in North America with a passion for high performance distributed systems. We are harnessing our semiconductor and system design experience to build profitable blockchain technologies for you. So they are in North America. They're specifically in Canada, so our neighbors to the north. So shout out to all the Canadian homies. Let's keep looking. One interesting thing on their site, I don't know if it's outdated and it's actually regarding this BTC miner or if it's something else, but let's take a quick read. So we also offer a range of mining rigs for altcoins. More details on new systems for POW algos coming. So it's unsure if it's going to be ASICs or if it's like GPU related where they just have ready to go rigs, but I'll keep you updated if I hear anything new on that front. But let's take a look at the actual unit. So before we go there, actually, so this isn't the first unit though, using these Intel chips that has been mass produced. The original, the OG, the first is actually from Hive Blockchain. So they had their Hive buzz miners is what they call them. They didn't really give us a whole lot of info though. They gave us ranges. We didn't really see like power specifications. We did have some from Intel though, right? When those leaked, we did see those. So we do have a ballpark as to where they're at. About reading through here. So what is unique about the Hive Buzz Miner is the dynamic range of operation. We are able to operate our machines from 110 terahash to 130, allowing us to optimize the profitability of our fleet by varying the power consumption and machine efficiency. Accordingly, our initial build of 5,800 Hive Buzz miners can produce between 638 petahash to 754, right? So one other little press release. Hive has installed over 4,200 buzz miners to date. Hive has received over 5,600 buzz miners in its data centers and continues to install them to increase the overall hash rate. So Hive expects to receive an additional 645 in the next 2 months, representing a total production quantity of 6,300. Right? So the interesting part there is the fact of just how many units they've made, right? Not necessarily just units they've made, but how many Intel chips have shipped, right? So it seems the way it's working is Intel is just producing the chips and the hash boards. Well, I don't even know if it's the hash boards. It could possibly just be the chips, and it's up to these guys to design and implement it, right? For them to design how it's going to be configured, the design structure, the R&D of how it's going to be set up. It's all up to them, right? So they're pretty much shipping it to different manufacturers, and it's up to them to create it and for them to customize it, right, based on their unique needs. So this is pretty interesting that they've produced so many. So it's not something where they're only making, a couple hundred. This is in the thousands, right? In this case, it's 5,600s just from Hive alone, right? So pretty interesting stuff. But again, when that press release came out, they didn't give us a whole lot of info, just some kind of generic pictures. There is a picture here of the unit on its side. So again, in their case, it was the typical like Bitmain setup where intake and exhaust fans in that same configuration. There is a picture here of them all together. So again, this is probably the preferred method just because it'll be plug and play, right? Most of these places already that had infrastructure set up, it's set up for these style miners, right? So it's going to fit in that size profile and the location of it and their heat extraction setup, right? So that's most likely the reason for that, but it is pretty cool. So let's get back to the original. So from ePIC Blockminer, so they have two models, right? One is again that typical ASIC setup from Bitmain, and the other being in a different configuration. We'll go over that here in a second. But here's this guy. So it's the model 520i, which is the regular configuration. So it is powered by their ePIC UMC board, which is their universal mining control. So that'll be their like GUI, their interface, which is pretty cool because it's very like open. It's very customizable and it's set up that way from the get-go, right? It's not like Bitmain where everything's locked down. Here you can configure it to your specific needs, right? Which is very, very cool without having the need for aftermarket firmware, right? So it's just coming in natively. So this flexibility complemented by an overclocking headroom of up to 50%, right? So making it a highly adaptable option for your mining needs. Again, that customization factor is very, very neat. Hopefully others begin to do this, right? Because again, Bitmain is locked down. Although they did recently, again, release that like low power mode, so that does give some flexibility, but not to the extent of like this, right? Where you can overclock, underclock, you can do as you need, find that sweet spot for your current setup, right? Maybe in stock mode it's running too hot, but just reducing it 10% makes it run at a good temp, right? It gives you that headroom, that flexibility, which is awesome, right? These are the types of innovation we want to see from competition, right? So let's look at the stats now, right? So it's coming in at 110 terahash, 3,300 watts for 30 joules of terahash efficiency, right? So we'll compare it here to like the current leader in a second just to see how it compares, but very similar to the previous 110 terahash models from Bitmain, right? The S19 Pro, which was coming in at 110 terahash. So the max input power for the power supply is 5,000 watts, and it is immersion ready. And I'm assuming also even on like the interface front where you can set it up. So most likely you won't need to have like fan spoofers or thing of that sort. You'll probably be able to do it from the interface, which is pretty cool. So it does give you that flexibility. So let's look at the other model, which is very, very interesting. I like the design of this guy. So this is an air-cooled 4U unit. So this is the model 740A. And the form factor is what's interesting because you can just throw it in a rack, right? So super, super cool, especially for density, right? You're able to keep your things there. And it's also going to make like heat extraction and such easier, especially for these existing data centers, right? So it is a pretty cool and innovative design, especially again for density, right? You're able to just pretty much rack mount these guys and you can go as big as you need to go. It's just density factor. It's going to take up less space, right? Especially if you have already existing infrastructure for that. If you already have, let's say, a rack you had in the garage or something for other servers or your network switches, etc., etc. It does give you that flexibility. So this guy doesn't go into specifics whether, so it is rated higher, right? So it doesn't go into specifics whether it's more chips or it's just overclocked. I would think it's just an overclocked version because the efficiency is down. It is also using those Intel chips. The efficiency is down, which means just saying that it's overclocked, right? Don't know for sure. It's not specified on here, but that's just my guess. So this guy's rated at 145 terahash, 4,930 watts, right? So it is higher, does have a bigger power supply. This one's rated at 6,000 watts, again, because it's a lot higher already. It's pretty much at the peak, right? So being at that 20% rule. So interesting number because this still would work on like a 30 amp circuit if this were, commercially or available for retail, right? But again, that efficiency does go down at this clock. So just something to keep in mind. But again, that form factor, very innovative. Something similar to like Blockminer has started doing, right? So interesting there. Very cool concept. I'm liking that. Let's take a look now to the competition, right? And this is where things kind of change. So the current leader right now in the space for BTC is Bitmain antminer, specifically the XP, right? So we're going to compare the new gen to the new gen, right? So this guy is coming in at 141 terahash at about 10% less watts, right? So the big difference here is the efficiency, right? As we looked over here, The standard guy, it's about 30 joules per terahash, so 30 watts a terahash. And this guy's coming in at 21.5. So pretty drastic difference in efficiency, right? But again, you do have flexibility with this guy. It is a different chip. They are new players in the space. So we'll see what it comes from. And again, keep in mind also there has been negative articles coming out for the XP regarding changes that they've made in their design. We don't know the full extent of it yet. It seems like they do have a higher failure rate. We don't really know to what extent now exactly. And we don't know what's causing it, right? Is it crappy design, or is it just that because of this new design, it's less favorable in those really hot climates, right? We're going to get some more data points hopefully this summer when a lot of these bigger farms, especially those guys in Texas, are running theirs, and we'll see how they do in the heat, right? I'm sure if there are higher failure rates, we're going to hear about it in the summer. And even with these guys, right? So the also kind of the hard part here is that these are new, right? This is first gen stuff. We don't really know longevity, durability, reliability. Bitmain isn't necessarily the best company, but they've been doing it for the longest, right? There are a lot of repair centers. Replacement parts are more readily available. So you do have to take those types of things into consideration. But again, just a new person in the space, especially out of that China region, is huge, right? Any kind of competition is always welcome because it's going to force everybody else to be better, right? Especially this thing. I love the open interface. This is something that Goldshell should take note of, especially all the competitors to Bitmain, right? Because this is one facet where they can, even if it's not the most efficient thing in the world, it can take over, right? Or especially if we do have mass problems with these XPs, these things are going to look way more appealing out of nowhere, right? So these are things to factor in, especially with these new gen tech, right? Whether it's the new chips from Bitmain or these new guys, right? So just something to take into account. So let's look at profitability, right? So if we throw in the stats from the first guy, we'll do the first guy first, the Model 520i. Again, 110 terahash at 3,300 watts. Throwing it in, let's put it at a residential rate. So let's put it at 10 cent kilowatt hour. And currently it is not profitable, right? And this is factoring in this recent pump. Again, we just had a 20% pump over the weekend. So this is rating it at 24,000 and it's at a 42-cent loss, right? But again, this is being sold to farms. So this is what they're going to be concerned with. Most likely they're at 5 cent kilowatt hour or better, right? So for these guys, they're definitely profitable. $3.54. So they are doing their thing. Now let's plug in the other one. Again, let's start with that 10 cent kilowatt hour. So this one, the profitability is going to be worse, again, because it's less efficient, right? So specifically right now, while profitability is not too hot, efficiency is definitely king, right? Especially for us residential guys. You guys on 5 cent and lower kilowatt hour, does make a difference, but not the biggest deal in the world. But for us who are at residential rates, it's the difference between plugging in and not plugging in, right? So again, this one's less efficient because of that overclock. This one's at almost $2 a day loss. And let's plug in that farm rate at 5 cent. It's almost at a $4 profit, right? And they are making more coins at this point. So keep that into consideration. So good for them. Good for their sector. But now let's compare it to the most profitable. So this is the stats for the XP. And the XP, so again, 141 terahash, 3,032 watts. Even at a 10 cent kilowatt hour, it is still profitable, right? $2.34, right? So again, efficiency is king for us at home miners during this crappy time, right? So now let's plug in that farm rate at 0.05. Okay, it's almost $6 a day. Okay, so something to take in consideration, take note of. But again, we got to see the durability and the reliability, right? So far, it seems, word on the street is that the S19s, the regular models, may be more reliable. But hopefully, by the end of this summer, we'll have a better idea, right? And again, BTC is not the only competition. I'm just putting specifically the XP just because it is currently the efficiency king, right? Keep in mind, there are other options. We do have like Canaan, the Avalon, and more notably, probably the best in terms of durability and reliability is from Blockminer, right? Their M30, their M50 series are always highly regarded in that durability factor, especially in high heat conditions, right? So take that into consideration also. So interesting stuff, especially when we compare it. So again, guys, it's not as efficient as the XP, but keep in mind the flexibility, the innovation, the customization effect from it, and just the fact that you can, put it to your needs, right? For example, like in my situation, if I had one and things are running too hot, I can tune it down, right? I can find that sweet spot for my setup, or for those of you guys in colder setups, freaking max that thing out, right? Gives you that flexibility from day one without this aftermarket crap. Just boom, right from your GUI, right from your interface, which is super cool. Hopefully, a lot of these other guys begin to do that without having to, void your warranty by overwriting it and putting in aftermarket firmware. So hint, Gold Shell, hint, IB-Link, something you may want to look into, right? So let's look at what else they had going on. So this is the other cool aspect. So again, it was powered by the UMC, which is going to be their GUI interface. So they are also releasing this for other units, right? So this is going to be how we're going to be able to overclock other units. So for think of like the XP, they're even going to have it for the Blockminer series, which is pretty cool. So the M30, the M31, the M50 will also be included. And this is how you're going to be able to run that overclock, especially with those newer units, right? Those of you guys with the older S19s, you have the little SD slot. You can, just download Brains or Hive on any of those. But for those of you guys with the newer boards, you don't have that option, right? So now this is giving you that option to be able to overclock, underclock, and take control of your miner, right? But something to keep note of is that this will void your warranty. So if you do have like an XP, for example, and you're thinking of overclocking, underclocking, whatever, keep in mind that it is going to void your warranty. So factor that in if it's something you're thinking of doing. So these guys currently are not available to the public. Again, they only sell to farms. Same with a lot of the other ones. Like I hear like Luxor, they have their firmware, but again, that kind of stuff is only available to farms currently. Hopefully, eventually, they will make it available to retail, but for them, of course, they're going to sell to farms because it's a guaranteed like bulk sale, right? Especially a big farm with like, let's say 10,000 units. That's 10,000 orders without having to worry about distribution or headaches like that. It's just an easy order for them. And it's also the way I'm sure they're going to gain input from that farm directly as well, right? They're going to get direct feedback from them. I'm sure they have some kind of like deal with them going on just so they can, continually improve it. But again, hopefully one day we do get access to this, right? Hopefully in the near future, because again, there is going to be a lot of competition between these, especially the ones who are like asking for like additional fees, which most of them have some sort of dev fee between like 1 to 3%. So just something to keep in mind. They also did have some numbers for the XP, which is pretty interesting. So here on their Twitter, they posted this picture, and this is from an XP. Very impressive stuff, okay? They actually beat the factory efficiency while overclocking, okay? So this is 174 terahash, so a nice jump at a 10% efficiency gain. Pretty impressive. This is one thing we've been seeing from these new chips from Bitmain is that they are overclockable fairly well. So again, we don't know if this is air cooled or water cooled. I'm assuming it's water cooled based on the temperature range here. But very interesting stuff regardless. So again, 174 terahash at only 3,300 watts, right? Super impressive. But again, these are preliminary numbers. Again, we don't know if it's immersed, if it's air cooled, anything of that sort, and longevity wise, right? We don't know if this was able to sustain or if it caused the temps to go up. Don't really have the specifics, but again, something to take note of for those of you guys thinking of getting one of those, right? And again, this is specific for the XP, but keep in mind they are releasing these boards for even those Blockminers, right? So that's where I'd be super interested to see what like the M50s and such can do, what the new 5nm platform can do on overclocks. Super fascinating, super interesting. Hopefully in the coming months we start getting a little more info. But let's actually put this into a calculator, right? See what it looks like. So inputting it here, so let's say you were able to get your hands on it on a residential aspect, your profit would be $3.91, right? So not too bad. Any of you guys with an XP thinking of doing that, there's just something to keep your eye on. But again, me personally, be excited to see what these What's miners can do, because we've been seeing these preliminary numbers for the XP, but I'm very, very curious to see how the 5 nanometer platform on the What's miners tends to do with these overclocks, right? Or even the underclocks. See what kind of efficiency gains they can get, if any. Again, I'll keep you guys updated if I hear anything. So pretty fascinating stuff. Again, ePIC Blockchain up in Canada, doing good things. We need to see competition, especially from ASIC miner manufacturers. So hopefully it does get to the point where they do mass produce them and do have them available to retail. So again, so far it's Hive and ePIC, and hopefully there will be more to come, right? We'll see who else develops. We'll see what kind of designs they come up with. And more importantly, the price points. That's one thing they did not include is price points. You have to email them in order to get quotes. So it'll be for like big farms doing like bulk quantities, right? So interesting stuff regardless of the price point. We need innovation in the space. We need more manufacturers. We need more options. We need more competition, right? Because that's what's going to make things better for everybody. Not only in terms of aspect of the benefits of it, but price, just everything. It needs to get out of solely being in China, right? So super interesting development here, right? So again, guys, please comment, like, and subscribe. Especially now, we're almost at 1,000, right? So if you guys haven't subscribed, I would highly appreciate that. But again, guys, please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, guys, and I am out.